If the freedom movement is the only thing standing in front of us in New York City,
foreign or domestic, who do you serve? You serve the state. You serve the New World Order.
Episode 11 with my brother Bill Pro. Bill Pro is a 20-year NYPD Sergeant, 20 years on the force, served our city. And today we are going to touch on the current events going on with the NYPD. Bill Pro, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Not a problem, man. I want to start with that. I have so much respect for you, brother. Like we met about 3 years ago, and it's good to see that, you know, everybody's trying to learn and see what's going on in New York State specifically. I'm going to try to keep it there because, you know, we're in a little deep water, brother. We're in a little deep water, which we'll get into. Can we get a little background on your career, on your 20-year career, please?
You want like a timeline on what I did and when I did it, like type of deal?
Perfect.
All right. I joined the NYPD in June of 1992. I graduated from the academy in early January of 1993. I was assigned to the 7-3 Precinct in Brownsville, Brooklyn for about 7 years. After that, I did 3 years in the Brooklyn North Evidence Collection Team, where I processed crime scenes, lifted fingerprints, processed mostly non-fatal shootings. Was kind of like the minor leagues for the crime scene unit. And I did that for 3 years, and then I left that and I went to Brooklyn North Vice, where I worked as an undercover officer and detective. I did that for a little over 2 years. I got promoted to sergeant. When I went to patrol as a sergeant, you have to go back to patrol. I was a detective. I said that. Then I went back to patrol. I went to police service area number 3, which is covers the it's in the housing bureau, which covers the housing developments in Brooklyn North. I worked there for about 3 years. Then I went to Queens Vice, where I was the Queens North Vice Sergeant for about 4 years. And then my last year I spent in Queens Narcotics, and I basically had the 105 precinct module, narcotics module.
And the 105 is located, that's in Queens, right?
Yeah, that's southeastern Queens, Rochdale, Hollis.
Gotcha.
Queens Village.
So you said you started in 1992?
Yes.
92. How was the environment? How was New York City in 1992 compared to when you left? What was going on in 1992 where you were stationed in 73?
When I came on the job, I believe there were 2,200 homicides a year. And when I left, there were less than 500. So it got significantly better crime-wise. And, you know, when I got to Brownsville, it was basically, I think we had 89 homicides that year. It's 1 square mile, like 1.2 square mile precinct. 1 in 10 people shot die. That's almost 900 people shot within a square mile in a year. That's about 2 to 3 a day. In the wintertime, there'd be none because it's February and everybody's inside and they don't go outside. And in July, it would be 7.
A day.
A day. Sometimes a tour.
7 people would die in this. What is a square
mile?
Not
die, would get shot.
Okay.
1 in 10 people, you know, you get shot in the hand, you're not going to die. It still counts as a...
People are getting shot. Humans are getting shot.
Every day.
Okay.
Every day. Every tour.
And how big was this precinct covered? What again? What was the size?
About 1.25 miles, maybe.
1 precinct, and there's 10 shootings a day as soon as it starts getting warm in New York City by the time you got on in 92.
Yes, at least 10 a day.
And
yes.
And this is Dinkins. This is the day of Dinkins, right before
Dinkins was the mayor. Yes. The robberies were constant robberies, you know, snatch and grabs, gunpoint robberies, commercial robberies. That you couldn't even keep count. Like we'd do roll call at 3 o'clock. By the time the day tour came in and dropped the car off, and you just jumped in the car, and they would handle jobs up until the end of their tour. We were probably holding 20 to 30 jobs. They knew what time we ended. They knew when to rob. They knew, on Pickens Avenue. I don't know if you ever heard of Pickens Avenue.
Yeah, I heard
They
of
knew, right. And Pickens Avenue is
on the other side of Cyprus for me.
correct. Okay. So Pickens Avenue goes down. It ends in Brownsville. I think it starts in Queens somewhere in
Queens, yeah.
Ozone, maybe, right? Ozone Park, right.
Yeah.
Right. So there would be, snatch and grabs, gunpoint robberies, they used to wear the big door knocker earrings, the women, they would rip them out of their ears. I mean, it was chain snatches. It was just, it was just mayhem, basically, when I got there.
So when Giuliani got in about 2 years after you've been on the force, right? 94, I believe.
Yes.
What was the change? Obviously, so now I'm growing up as a kid. I'm watching the parks get better and stuff. So I'm looking at it from that paradigm. At that point, that they're redoing every park in the city. So from when I'm 7 years old, that looks nice. But what was happening that crime was decreasing rapidly? What did Giuliani tell the NYPD to do?
All right. So when I came on, you would go to roll call. So I did 4 to 12s. After I got out of field training, I did 4 to 12s when I was on patrol. So you would get there and the sergeant would do, and there'd be 50 to 60 cops turning out a tour for 1 square mile. And we all worked. And they would tell you basically, you were only to make felony arrests. There were no misdemeanor arrests to be made unless it was a must arrest, which is a family offense. So if somebody beat their domestic partner or their wife or their child's mother, then you don't have a choice. Even if it's a misdemeanor, you have to make that arrest. But there was no, no regular assault 3, 2 guys get in a fight, 1 guy gets bloodied up. There's no arrest being made. You make an arrest for that. The next day, you're going to be at Brookdale Hospital on a hospitalized prisoner or an emotionally disturbed person with tuberculosis. And that's how it worked. Because back then it was, they wanted to keep the car running. Have to keep the car running because we fought every day. Nobody they called it a run and tackle precinct. Mm-hmm. Nobody came. Nobody's putting their hands behind their back. Nobody, I opened the door to put we call them perps, in the back of the car, and somebody's opening the other side of the door, and we're having a tug of war over the handcuffed prisoner in the back of the car. And they just piled out of the buildings, and so there were no nonsense arrests is what they said. There were no collars. You're not making anything unless it's a gun, a rape, a robbery, a burglary, a GLA maybe. GLAs they didn't even like on the 4 to 12. On the midnight guys did that. So it was basically only felonies they wanted. When Giuliani got in, everybody went. So lock everybody up. Everybody goes, I don't care what. Like they used to drive around with little they were like 3x5 index cards that they were copies of a temp tag. They used to put them in their back windows. They were all the same number. They were all temp tags, and they would change the date.
Right.
They were everywhere. It was like every 10th car. And then when Giuliani got in there, those people got arrested, and they were charged with criminal possession of a forged instrument, which is felony. Obviously, they weren't convicted of a felony, but they were charged with felonies. Like everybody was arrested and everybody went. That was not a felony you could bring in when Dinkins was the mayor.
Right. So there was different tactics now.
Oh, yeah.
Because Giuliani was the DA and he was promising to clean the city. So he had you guys.
Yes. And we fought even twice as much then because everybody went.
Yeah. Get on the wall. It's funny because now Giuliani's in, right? And I was like, like I said in my other video, I was a little knucklehead. So I was put on the wall many times. So I remember that. I do remember that as a child, and if someone even had a bag with seeds in it, like weed, if I had a friend that was smoking, he was going in, which is
right.
So foreign now, right? Like it's such a different day now.
Right.
All right, so Giuliani makes his promise. He's going to clean the city, and his solution is basically just lock everybody up.
Pretty much.
were these quotas and stuff like that started to be implemented on him? Was that more Bloomberg?
No, that was all of them. They had them under Dinkins from day one.
Really? That's
Yep, day
interesting.
one,
Wow.
a book a month, day
Okay.
one. Not arrest quotas, but summons quotas from day one. You had to write a book.
Can you explain the summons real quick?
There's three types of summons: the A summons, the B summons, and the C summons. The A summons would be a parking summons. You double parked, your meter expires, whatever. Then a B summons would be a moving violation. That would be going through a red light, going through a stop sign, whatever. And then a C summons is drinking in public, urinating in public. I guess I don't think they do smoking and weed anymore because that's not right. But those are C summonses.
Right.
So they wanted, back then a book was 25, so it had to be 25 A, B's, and they didn't want C's because if you're doing a C summons back then, you'd have to run the person's name, and if they had a warrant, they had to go. And now the car is down, so there was no C summonses really. There were guys who did them. The guys on patrol didn't do them. There would be a conditions unit that would do it. So the patrol car's job is basically to keep going. So you would pull a car over with the tag in the back, that little card I told you. The guy would have no license. He'd have nothing on him. Normally, you'd be arrested, but they weren't arrested. Said, give me a name, any name. You wrote any name to the Mr. Mobile, and you wrote him 5 summonses, and then you sent him on his way.
So now it's a numbers game, right?
Correct. Everything was, yes. If you wrote less, there'd be a problem. If you wrote more, when I was in FTU, I remember I wrote 26 one month, and my training sergeant was like, Bill, what's going on? You wrote 26 summonses. Like, oh, I miscounted. He goes, okay. He goes, write 25 down on your activity report. Next month, write 24 and write 25 on your activity report. Because he didn't want you don't want to make your coworkers look bad.
Right.
So he was a good guy. He kind of like told you this is what they want. They don't want more. Don't do more. It was just this.
They wanted a threshold, right?
That was the number, and everybody had to hit the number.
Yeah.
If you didn't hit the number, you weren't getting off for anything.
So now you're cleaning up the city. We're obviously seeing a difference between Dinkins and Giuliani. They're putting you guys to work, and the looking back, right? I mean, this is 20 years ago, but looking back, we looking like
30 years ago.
30 years ago, really putting you guys in a bind because now you guys are having more contact, right? Because now you're locking up more people. You're
a lot more contact and a lot more civilian complaints. And they used to tell you, don't worry about civilian complaints. If you do your job, you're going to get them. And then down the road, they come into play. That's all I'm going to say.
Right.
Right.
Before we get into where the government kind of just put you out there, before we get into that, you really put something in perspective. And I was in PA with my wife this weekend. You sent me a video of the year that either the year or the year before you signed up. And you were just trying to explain to me that this is a nuanced situation. And for all the followers watching, you guys got to remember, whether it's the government's fault that the neighborhood's bad, if it's people take accountability of their own neighborhoods, whatever the case is, there's still crime happening and there's defenseless people there. And there's nobody else except these cops that are in this area. The argument to that is always going to be people saying, well, they're kind of in one hand opening the door for the lady, and the other hand kicking her in the ass. Like there's good cops and bad cops. But I would really like for you to just explain what like in 92, when you're patrolling this area in the 73rd in Brownsville, what are these people that live in the neighborhood that are helpless saying to you as a police officer, brother?
Brownsville. Oh, nah, there's a lot of hatred in Brownsville. It's a lot different than Bed-Stuy or the other places in Brooklyn. Brownsville is kind of on its own. But the older people liked you. They would never outwardly show you in front of like their peers or in front of the younger people, but they would, like you would do an election detail. The cops go to the election detail. All the ladies would come over, say hello, thank you for being here. They knew that you were the only thing that stood between them and mayhem. Like you know, in places like that, the people that live there, the kids, basically 15 to say 22, 23, before they either get killed or incarcerated, they kind of run the show. And the older people, somebody in your 40s or your 50s, they're afraid of them. They live in utter fear of them. I mean, it's that's what everybody's like, oh, the cops are oppressing everybody. Their victims look just like the perpetrators. The same. It's not a different demographic. It's the same demographic. The kids from the Van Dyke houses would rob the kids from the Brownsville house's mother, and then the war kicks off because somebody's mom just got robbed. These kids all went to the same high school together. They all go to Thomas Jefferson High School or Lincoln or wherever they go. But when they're home, they can only walk in a 3-block area because somebody who lived next door to them robbed somebody's mom that lived over there.
So
And that's
constant war.
constant.
Why do you look? You live in Long Island now, and being in Long Island areas, patrolling areas in Brooklyn. Why do you think a neighborhood in like Levittown and Huntington look different than Brownsville or East New York? Is it population? Is it lack of resources? You hear these arguments that it's. Why do you think these neighborhoods look drastically different?
Oh, I think the government wants them. I personally think that the government wants them. There's so much corruption, and they want, that George Collins kid I told you about. The rich guys, right? They get everything. People in the middle pay for everything. They keep the poor people to scare the people in the middle. And I truly believe they believe that. We used to say that all the time. We'd be driving around Brownsville and we're like, this is a great idea. Crime was just encapsulated in this 1 square mile precinct. And they just killed each other. They didn't kill anybody else. Right. They killed each other.
The war in that area.
Well, when I was in Queens Vice, I covered Queens North. So that would be like Jackson Heights, Corona, high prostitution problem. I never heard a gunshot fired in anger one time in 4 years. 0 times. I wouldn't go, when I first got to Brownsville, I wouldn't go 5 to 10 minutes without hearing gunshots. When I left Brooklyn North, when I left housing, maybe once an hour you would hear gunshots. 4 years covering 10 precincts in Queens North, Forest Hills, Glendale, never heard a gunshot.
Glendale?
Listen, I'm not saying they don't happen, but they have to happen when
right, for you, right? On your patrol.
You know what I mean? I'm not saying they don't happen. You know what I mean? I'm sure Ridgewood's got some too. I'm sure.
Oh yeah, forgot about it. Right. I remember, we went through. No, I won't lie. We definitely in the last 10 years, it's been really, really nice place to live, Ridgewood. It's definitely changed. But I do remember when I was young. I live under the train. Actually, the M train's moving as we're talking. And under the train, they would stab each other, do crack. Yes. I remember the crack vials on the floor. Bill, man, I bring you on, and I love that you're the first man on the force, retired sergeant on the force that came on, because you do the education, and you have such a you're looking for truth. You're not looking to be right. You're not looking to protect anything. But at the same time, man, you give me these complex views of like there's 2 sides to this, and we as a society, before we get into the bigger problems, societal problems. I don't see my goal is to restore the republic, right? That's what I'm willing, me and my wife are willing to work at that the rest of our lives if that's what's needed. And we have a couple friends that have the same goal. We want to push law. We want to push New York State back to the Constitution, to the state constitution. Get away with victimless crimes. But because you're a police officer, you'll be the first one to say this. Until the society gets better, what good is pushing the police back at this point? That would just make a highway for anarchy, right?
Right.
So I don't see any answers without the society playing a role in helping out, because the cops are kind of like being sent to deal with a problem that's really a home problem.
Oh, correct.
Right? Like,
no, you can't even imagine. They used to call, Back then, I went on it. I was 29 when I came on, but I had friends who went on the job at 20. So they're 2 years out of high school.
Yeah.
And they're getting called to a family dispute, and there's two 45-year-old people asking a 20-year-old to solve their problems.
Yeah. But
Like,
meanwhile, the problem is because you didn't raise your children right. You know, you're not active in
yes.
your children's life, or you see what I'm saying, brother? Like if our society does not mature, there'll always be a reason for government
But
overreach.
there are so many, you know that there are so many different scammers, and you know, there is money thrown at those neighborhoods. Where does it go?
Mm.
Ah,
Yeah,
you know what I
you're jumping in early.
yeah, you know what I'm saying though. Like
yeah, it's true. It's
right.
true. And
You know,
there's a lot of money. There's a lot of money. See, I always try to like zoom out, right? And I did 2 years in prison, so I had a little firsthand glance at how the system is ran. These small, as you know, these small towns live off the prisons, right? And there's 73
yes.
prisons, and they got to put bodies in those prisons. So this is where Giuliani was like the golden egg. You see what I'm saying? You could see where it trickles down. You know, the prison industrial complex. We got to fill these things. No longer just doing the Dinkins felonies. I can already put it together. Giuliani's like, we got to get the thing going. And by doing that, you end up creating the society that's already broken. So it's like a Band-Aid at first for Greg growing up at 7. Oh, the neighborhoods are getting nice. But what really happened is people come home 20 years later, all broken, families all broken, mothers with no man in the house, you know, and we can't blame the cops. The society has to take accountability too. Because if we had an accountable society, we wouldn't be getting arrested too. You see what I'm saying? It's a two-sided
it's
issue.
a very, very, very long. This is decades. This has been going on, and
Yeah.
generations. You know, third, fourth generations because the generations are a little smaller in some of these neighborhoods.
Yeah.
That 16 years is a generation. You know, as opposed to 25.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's the police aren't solving that ever. I will say this: the police were the only ones who cared when people were getting shot. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. Now they're all, oh, these mass shoot. There was a mass shooting every Saturday night.
Right.
Never on the news.
It's the TV. It's an on-off switch, bro. It's
correct, but it was the wrong people getting shot.
Right.
Nobody cares.
Right.
Nobody cared. What's going on in South Side of Chicago?
Saying,
nobody cares.
Say it again, bro. Say it again. The wrong people get shot.
Correct.
And you're bringing up a great point. It doesn't matter when those shots happen. It's funny.
And those shots are a quarter of the amount they were 30 years ago nationwide.
Right.
But now all of a sudden we're going to get rid of the Second Amendment because of all the shootings. There's less shootings.
There's less.
Might be more white people getting shot. I don't know. I doubt it.
Yeah.
But that's really where we're at. And I'm telling you right now, that's the only reason you're allowed to say what you're saying right now. That amendment.
100%.
Yeah.
Make no mistake. So that's that, and hence why I'm so adamant about this stuff, man. With this corporation, it has been in control for a very long time. People think this happened under Biden. I see too many. My Republican brothers and sisters, please hear me clear. This didn't start happening a few years ago. This has been happening a long time. Bill knows the education. Me and him have spoke on a number of occasions where he knows the education, guys. The issue is that people, they have taken the patriotism and turned it into Coca-Cola patriotism. Hot dogs, hamburgers, and Yankee games, and patriotism is to like going to war and more safety and less freedom. At the same time, it goes back to what we originally said, which is the society is not mature enough to step into that freedom. You see what I'm saying? So if the communities, I touched on this in the video today, if the communities are not helping, then it's left on to the police officers, and they're being told, and they're going to follow orders. So you see the problem. Like if the society doesn't step in, this doesn't get fixed, in my opinion.
They don't want them to step in. I really don't think they want them to step in. I don't. Do you think the mayor really cares what's going on? He doesn't care. He's out partying, having a great time. And he opened his mouth, and what'd they do? They took his phone. What does that say? Keep your mouth shut, and you can live your life and be as corrupt as you want. That's our government.
So what do you alluding to? That like what did he do that you think he warranted that? What do you
He was
think?
complaining about the migrants. Remember,
fucked
he was
up.
like, "Oh, this is a sanctuary city, and we got to let people in." And then they kept sending them. And then he was like, "Wait a minute, hold on now. This is costing us billions of dollars."
Right.
And now he complained about the Biden administration on the news, and he got slapped. He's not going to go to jail, but they let him know.
Because he did switch back. He did switch back.
Of course he did.
Because he got slapped, and he was like, "Nah, you messed up. You messed up."
And that is the way the world works.
Wow. You know what? That I didn't hear that yet. That kind of aligns, Bill. That kind of aligns. Interesting. Speaking of this, with world events happening, where do you see this going? I mean, we do have a mass migration. We have a lot of unidentified people into the country. The FBI, I don't trust the FBI at all, but they warn of possible terrorist attack. I did a post. Yo, this is so crazy, Bill. I did a post about a month and a half ago, and they thought I was talking about the migrants. But I have a friend who's in the terrorist task force, and they were watching Brooklyn. This is before Palestine and Israel, so they already heard chatter something was going to happen, and then all that stuff happened. So I'm watching this happen. Like the NYPD are bringing these people in, the governments are bringing these people in, and then what? A problem's going to happen, and then they're going to solve the problem that they let in. How does this work, Bill?
I don't know how it works. I think that they'll have a nice big terrorist attack. They'll have assault weapons.
Right.
And they're readily available to everyone. Do me a favor, go try to buy one. Let me know how it works out for you. Right. And but they'll get them just like everybody has the same model that's in a mass shooting. It's crazy. There's 800 different brands, but I'm not going to go there. Okay, but a lot of these guys all show up with a Daniel Defense AR-15. It's a $2,300 AR-15, like the guy in Texas. He had a $2,300 15. He worked at Wendy's.
Right, doesn't make sense. Yeah,
right. That's a government
AR-15. It's always an AR-15 too, bro.
But it's the same brand AR-15 with the same optic on it. I can tell you the model of the gun and the model of the optic. It's the same one that the guy in Buffalo had. Daniel Defense DD4 V7, not a DD5 V7 or DD4 V6. DD4 V7 with the EOTech EXP 2.0. They both had the same exact one. I go to a lot of training classes with my AR-15. And no two guys, there'll be 50 guys there. There'll be 50 different guns.
Right. So this is
this guy will have a Smith & Wesson.
These are false flags. You're alluding that these are false flags, correct?
100%.
All right. I too agree.
The Buffalo cop who just happened to invent the truck that ran on water.
Yep. They got rid of him.
Was the security guard? Yeah, come on, stop.
Marked him. Yeah, that was a 2-for-1. That was a 2-for-1.
Right. They got a nice mass shooting, and they killed the guy who just invented the car that ran on water.
Right.
Yeah. I can't.
It's not even funny.
It's not.
We're in the Twilight Zone. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. Is. Where are we? All right. So no, because I'm glad you're already jumping in because so you've been seeing the events that are happening, man. You told me that you feel for these cops because you know that they don't agree, right? You've been in those locker rooms.
I know cops. Cops are regular guys. They're regular guys who, when they took the job, most, not all, just like anybody else. There's some plumbers that are great guys and some plumbers that aren't. Same thing with cops. They're people. There are good people and not so good people. But on average, they're trying to do the right thing. And they get there and then they get beat down. They get beat down. You don't do what they ask you to do or tell you to do, it's over.
What are some punishments that would happen if they don't follow orders or don't do as they tell you? What are some punishments?
Well, they would start off. There's three tours. So there's a A squad, B squad, C squad. They work midnight to 8 in the morning, 7 to 3:30, and 3 to 11:30 at night. So a lot of cops are married to other cops, right? Because people meet at work, right? Teachers marry teachers, fire, not firemen because they're all men, but a lot of cops are married to cops. So I know cops that their wife did day tours and they worked 4 to 12s, and they would put the kid in the car, drive on the Long Island Expressway. The wife would get off of work because she did 6 to 2s or something like that, and she would meet him halfway there, switch the kid out at the park and ride, and then she would drive home with the kid, and then he'd go to work. Because
Wow.
childcare is expensive. This is the life of a cop. You make no money, all right? Not for here. I mean, you know what I mean. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. National
Okay,
Summer.
and it was worse back then. They're doing a little better now.
Yeah.
So these guys, so now they know that Craig doesn't. He needs to work 4 to 12 because his wife does 6 to 2s in the next precinct over, because you can't work in the same precinct anymore. And now you're doing day tours. So now you're both doing day tours. It's going to cost you, I don't know, $800 a week to watch your kid, or a month, or whatever it costs. I don't know what it costs today to watch your kid. If you don't have a support system, you're screwed. Or sometimes they drop them off at their mom's house, and then the other one picks the kid up at the mom's house for like 2 hours, while they're going back and forth to work. That's probably the first thing they'll do is switch your tour. And then after that, they'll,
got it. Now, too.
right. There's all different.
Purposely do right. All right.
Right. They'll switch your tour, and then you'll get in line. And then maybe after 6 months or a year, you can go back to your old tour if you get in line. If you don't get in line, then it's going to be, you'll be transferred to another precinct. You got to start over. You don't know anybody.
Yeah.
And
you always hear that they'll send you to the Bronx or something. They would always.
They're going to give you highway therapy. They call it. That's a term. Ask any cop what highway therapy is. Highway therapy.
Highway therapy.
Ask your buddy in Joint Terrorist Task Force if he knows what it is. He's going to go, yeah. Right? And they're going to send you somewhere where you have to pay a toll. So it's $8 each way, $16 a day. You work 20 tours a week. It adds up. That's coming out of your pocket. So that's what they do.
That sucks. Do they still practice this quota stuff? Is the quota still around, do you think?
I think so. They call it a performance goal, and as a boss, you have to do evaluations on every cop, quarterly evaluation, and then a yearly evaluation. And if they're not making their numbers, they're going to give you your evaluation back.
And give you some highway therapy.
I had guys, Mr. Smith is, he brings intangibles, he's good. You know what I mean? You try to. They're like, no, this guy doesn't deserve a 4.0. He deserves a 2.
So from the outside looking in, I always remember that there's obviously these situations of nuance. When we first started speaking and I asked you to come on, you said something that I do want to say publicly, that one side is going to hate cops because they're going to look at you or cops in general, as the oppressor. They're not going to want to listen. And on the other side, they're gonna be like, blue line of solidarity, and you're talking and you're giving the micros of the job. And the issue is where there's like a silence of like, if I don't agree with one thing you're saying, I want to just silence you or stop you from speaking. And that's the issue, and the lack of conversation, because somebody's gonna watch this who probably had a preconceived notion of police and then hear you talk, brother. And then go, okay, maybe there's more that we have to. Oh, listen. Obviously, I know you're a negative Nancy, and I know
not a negative Nancy. I know the truth. Everybody needs a
boogeyman. No, but no, it's not. But listen, but then we're doing the same thing we're accusing them of. You see, we have to believe, because look, I have a lot of bad experience with cops.
I'm sure you do.
And I went to bat.
You live in the 104, the Queens Marines. Stop.
They were actually the nicest to me.
Okay.
But the point is, like, no, I never let my personal problems that I had with cops, whether it be in prison or outside of prison, being put up on walls, put arrested because I didn't have my ID and I was down the block from my house. Guy wouldn't even let me get my ID because he's probably, now I know, probably making quotas. I never let that go. I understood that, there's just these situations. I get it. I don't want to broad stroke anything. But without these conversations, without hearing Bill for 40 minutes, an hour, people don't really, and you're an even guy. Like your goal is truth. So you're not here trying to like protect anything. You're here telling your truth, Bill's truth. And people can learn. And that's why I think it's so important that you do speak out, though.
Okay.
You have no hope of humanity, right? You have hope of humanity.
Well, that's part of the downfall of the line of work. It
Right.
is. You become, you get lied to every day
Right. I get
by
it.
numerous people.
Yeah.
And if you're not careful, you can think everybody's lying to you, and you can't be. I mean, usually you learn how I can tell within 2 minutes if somebody's, a decent person or not, just because I had to. You know what I mean?
How long have you, since you've been retired, how long did it take for you to start like trusting humanity again?
Oh, I don't trust humanity. I think
you don't trust your wife, right?
I trust people as individuals. I don't trust humanity at all.
Yeah, no, I'm learning the hard way. I'm learning.
I think that sadly, the most dangerous animal on the planet is a person.
100%.
Nobody else kills for joy. Nobody else kills for, a lion will kill because he's hungry. That's it. If he's not hungry, you can walk right past him. You don't care. Right? You see it all the time when you watch nature shows, right?
Yeah.
There's the wildebeest. He's got a full belly. How you doing? He doesn't care.
In your opinion, humanity doesn't pull out of this? Pull out of what's going on?
I think I said it to you the other day. I think people don't want to see it. They don't want to know it. So they'd rather they think if they don't, they have their head in the sand, and if they don't address it, it's going to go away. But that's how they've been getting away with this for so many years, is because people will not address it and they don't want to know. I was today with my buddies at work with, and my friend, these guys, I went to high school with these guys. So they're good friends of mine. I graduated high school 43 years ago. So, one guy's a retired contractor, the other guy's the contractor, and I'm the retired cop. And we all did this before. Before I was a cop, I was a carpenter. So we working, and I told him I was going to be on the podcast. And the one guy, Drew, his wife works for a hedge fund, very wealthy. He works because he likes to work, and it's the only time he really gets to see his friends. Otherwise, life gets in the way. So, we put up some sheetrock and we bust each other's balls all day. It's not bad, right? He had a liver transplant. And I'm like, Drew, you had a liver transplant. I was like, yeah, it's because I had Crohn's disease. I go, you had Crohn's disease because they poisoned your food. I said, and then they gave you medicine to fix your stomach or your bowels that destroyed your liver.
All right, brother.
And this is the reason and thank God he had a sister-in-law gave him part of her liver. I said, thank God she was a match, or you'd be dead. But don't worry, you're going to take that anti-rejection medication for the rest of your life.
That's right.
Right. I said, so you've been on, he's 62. He's been on this, the other medication probably since we were in our early 30s, so 30 years, destroyed his liver, and now he's on this for the rest of his life. I said, you're the perfect reason. I said, you want this to happen to your children? Do you want your son to have a liver transplant? He just looks at me. I go, you got to get your head out of the sand. But he lives a nice life. His wife makes a few $100,000. She works for a hedge fund. He's got money in the hedge fund. He golfs whenever he wants. He doesn't care. And that's everybody.
Right.
That's everybody. They don't care. They don't want to know.
I'd be lying if I said I don't see exactly what you're saying, and it's a rough, man, because I just how I look at it, Bill, and you probably felt like this years ago, right? But like I feel like if we don't even try, then it falls on us too, brother. It's
correct. And it's not about me and you at this point. I'm 62. What do I got? 10 years of good life left? 61.
You got a good 30. We got a good 30 in you, bro.
You know what I'm doing? I mean, 90 years old. Come on, stop. All right. It's not going to happen. So it's not about me. It's about my children and my unborn grandchildren. Yeah. And if this is what these people don't, I got this. I want to go on vacation. Come on, stop. They complied with everything so they can go on vacation, so they can go sit down and have dinner. You know what? You won't let me in your restaurant? I'm telling you right now, Laura walked out of more than one more than how many restaurants did you walk out of that we've gone to for years?
Laura's a patriot, bro.
Whoa, she is. She's hardcore.
We
Just
have the
walked
utmost
right
respect.
out. I'm never coming back here again. Walked out.
Yeah.
You know, but most people don't. They don't want to know. They don't want to know. I point up in the sky. They're looking at me. I'm like, yeah, really? That's from the airplanes flying and that nice grid pattern. Stop. I mean, and that's what they do.
But that's the thing. People are seeing that, and it's like they just never mind. Like you said, they're like, it's better just to act like it's not happening. And
Correct.
I can already foresee. You know, I hate to go down this doomer path, bro, but I already foresee them saying, "Oh, now it's too late. Now, you know, it's just the way it is now." You know, they're waiting for that out. It's like an out that they're waiting.
That's what they're doing about everything.
It's great. Like
This clown who's in charge right now. He has got more votes than Obama. Stop.
And you know what scares me is even someone today wrote on the a post I made that he said this is why we have to all get behind Trump. And I don't feel good or bad about. I don't feel anything towards Trump. My thing is we have been so conditioned to believe that someone's going to save us. That there's so many capable men. There's so many capable men that we're not even asking you to get your muskets and go to war in Boston. We're just saying to just stand up and say no, do not comply. If you remember, we had that march with the city workers, right? I don't know if you remember this. We had all the city workers came out, 26,000 went over the bridge. And I'm talking big 6'2" firemen, smoking cigars, playing Metallica, big tough guys, right? All tough guys. And that day was the last day. And they all went over the bridge, made a right, and went right into Rite Aid, you know? And it's like, what did we do this for? Like, what? We had 26,000 city workers, bro.
Do it.
26,000?
Yeah.
Crazy. And that's
when they all crumbled.
We were in a heap of shit, bro. That's when I like, all right, now we got to do sit-ins. We got to, you know, and listen, the sit-ins and all that shit is not even, doesn't do anything, right? It's just a moment that people go, okay, at least my goal was to say, I'm out here. I'm not a city worker. I wasn't affected by this. I work for myself. I make my own money. Like I don't need to be out here. My wife was good. Like I'm down to do it if you give me your hand, my brother, and we do this together. And that hand, there weren't enough hands.
Well,
there were hands, but not enough. You know,
that's all part of the plan. There's no sense of community anymore. You know, there's no religion. People went to church. There was a community there. Their neighbors, they knew them. How many people know their neighbors now? Truthfully, they really don't. Everybody's too busy working. Schools are raising your kid. You know what I mean? You know, it's been going on for so long, and they've been doing it for so long, and they feel now is the time that they can pull it off.
Yeah,
they've lowered our testosterone levels are half.
They're killing us. They're killing us. They're doing a great job.
But men's testosterone levels are half of what they were in the 1950s.
Yeah.
Did you ever see what those guys did in the 1950s? They lived on cigarettes and bourbon.
Yeah.
And they had twice
still jacked up. Yeah. Still jacked
they had
up.
twice the testosterone. So these guys say, "Oh, I'm a vegan." Really? Right. You know what I mean? And this.
But yeah.
It's over. And that's how I feel. Sad.
No, guys, it's over.
Listen, I'll fight. I'll die on the hill. I'll do what I have to do, and I don't mean fight literally. What am I doing? I'm an old man, but
at least I'm on the camera.
You know, I'm not. What?
I said at least we won't say that on the camera. Yeah.
Right. Correct.
I want to ask you, since you're saying it, let's just throw it out there. This rollout happens from your point of view. This rollout happens, and what they go after the people that they feel undesirable for their new world order. You think they're going to come after certain undesirable?
Come after us. I think they'll just shut the water off, shut the electric off, let us kill each other.
I heard that before. The other one that I'm hearing is they create such a right wing, and this is the one that I'm starting to see because of what
the
Trump's
backlash.
Yeah, like they've been holding for so long, and then they let it go, and then we go so right wing that we go on some digital ID, and they're for it. They go, listen, this is how we're going to get all the migrants out and the terrorists. But also think about what they would need, brother, because so many people in the right wing are part of the freedom movement. So they're hip to like the mark of the beast or the digital ID. So for Trump to sell it, if that's the plan, I don't know that if that's the plan or not, but if that is the plan, he would have to sell it. That means we would have to have some horrific days where people are like, we need safety over freedom. I don't care. If this is going to help us, let's do it and let's get them out of here. And then you will see everybody, including the freedom movement, everybody would be like, we got to give military power, martial law, digital IDs, checkpoints.
Yeah, well,
Possibility.
the military are like the cops. They're the same type of guys. They're not down with that. At least the guys that are in the, the combat arms guys, they're not down with that.
Down with what?
With checkpoints on American people and kicking indoors and taking things from them. I don't think they're down with that. Number one, I don't think they're allowed. It's in the Constitution, but apparently the Constitution doesn't mean much anymore. They'll change it. But I don't think they're down with that. I think they're, you get, some Army Rangers. They're not giving up their stuff.
Right. No, I got you. Let me answer this.
And they're not coming to take yours. So they mean.
Let's just play this out real quick, right? So we already have the people here. Would you say that some of these people are waiting for orders to attack American people or to do some type of attack?
Absolutely.
Okay, we're there. So now that attack happens. Who kicks in? Who kicks in with hundreds of thousands of people in multiple cities? I know the cops would be the first.
I think the armed populace will kick in.
Okay, that's
like what
that's
just
something
happened
in the right direction. That's what I hope.
Right. Like what happened in Israel. They don't have a Second Amendment. So those people were left by their government for 7 hours. That's a whole different story. But those people, they had no way to defend themselves. I'm sitting home here today and I start hearing gunshots outside. Okay.
All day.
And they say there's 350 million guns in this country.
Right.
It's legal guns. So who knows? Who knows how many there really are?
So why are you so down and out? If you're saying these things, these are believe it or not.
That's got to get to the point.
It's gonna go there.
I said,
no, brother, it's going there.
I told you that I think the police will do what they're told to do,
right?
Until they don't. And the army will do what they're told to do until they don't. Sort of like the Russian Revolution, which was a horrible revolution, but that's not the point. The Russian army was trying to squash that. And then finally they said, you know what? Fuck the Tsar. And they got on board. I think that, I don't think that, the guy's not worried about getting transferred anymore if people are getting shot. You know what I'm saying? They'll step up.
All right,
they will.
All right, so Bill, this is all right. So I feel more that I feel more. We have.
They'll step up, but they're not going to step up until they absolutely have to. Because if they step up too early, they'll get destroyed.
You know what's interesting?
Step up, and everybody else steps back.
Yeah, you know what's interesting, Bill? I started listening to an audiobook, Fifth War, Generational Warfare, and it's by General Flynn, and he speaks about this type of warfare where they have the society running and it never boils over. So they're able to have society make money as they encroach. Yeah. And exactly what you've started with, right? People don't care until they're it's the frog in the hot pot, right?
Frog in the pot, right? Yeah, 100%.
So and we have gone so far. See, you give me hope by saying this, brother, because I know we've had some dark talk sometimes privately. That I'm glad you say that because I want to believe that. I want to believe that if they got orders from Hochul, let's just talk about the state, right? There's just a state. If they got orders from Hochul to start grabbing gun owners or martial law and treating everybody because there's problems in the streets, I want to believe that they won't take unlawful orders. I want to believe that about them. What I've seen so far. You believe that?
I do. They will in the beginning. They're going to kick some doors in, and some of those people are going to fight.
Yeah.
And when those people fight, they'll paint them as right-wing extremists, this, that, and the other thing. But then, you're upstate New York somewhere. Those people, they these left-wing lunatics. They fill their freezer every year with a deer. You know what I mean? They might not have an AR-15, but they got a nice 30-06 with a scope. And they start attacking their neighbor's house, and they know why. They're going to take some shots. I truly believe that. Like in the city, no, the city, the people will be like, "Oh, they just got Jerry." Nobody cares. They really, and that's the truth.
On the trade.
No, right, and that's the truth. But if you go
It
into
is,
the country, you go into the country. Those people, they all know each other still.
Yeah.
They live in these small towns. You go upstate or in PA in the Poconos. You know, they're all
about that life. Yeah,
they are, and they're not.
So you think the cities are going to have a rough go, huh?
I think the cities will yeah, because they're all disarmed basically already. Nobody has a gun in New York City. You can't get a gun permit.
Except the people that illegally have guns. That's the crazy shit about the city, bro.
Yeah, but they only care about themselves, those people.
Yeah.
Those people aren't going to stand up until they come for them.
Right.
But the regular people that would stand up are really disarmed. You know, they might have I think you need a rifle and a shotgun permit, right, to go hunting. So you have to get approved. That takes what, 2 years? Pistol permits are almost impossible to get unless you're connected.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And in the rest of the state, you know, they just passed that law that if you had a target permit and you take a class, it's a carry permit now. Like my friend's got a carry permit now. He went to this like 12-hour class. It's a carry permit. They won't. And she's not happy about it. So that's the whole state now. So he's got his gun now because there's people driving around that, we don't know who these people are.
Do you feel that every state should have an open carry?
I do. I do. You know, and when I was working in Brooklyn back in the day, I made gun collars. I did. I couldn't imagine being 60 years old, living in the projects in Brownsville or Bed-Stuy, and being unable to defend myself.
Yeah.
I really couldn't. I think that, you know, it's unfair. It's not what the Constitution says. I really do, you know. I mean, yeah. Obviously there's got to be, you can't be mentally ill or whatever, but I truly believe that unless you're a, you know, mental illness or convicted of certain felonies, not some bullshit felonies, but certainly, you know, you're a stick-up guy, you probably should be allowed to have a gun. But you know,
let me ask you. I went to jail for reckless endangerment of a firearm. Somebody broke into my house and I shot at them, and I went outside and I continued to shoot at him. It's been 15 years now. The state deems me as a good boy. I just got my paper. I can vote now.
Okay.
But do you feel, and honestly, do you feel I have the right to still protect myself even though I'm a felon?
Yes. You were how old? You were young?
It happened in 2006.
2000. Okay, so what were you?
I was 22.
22. Yeah, I think you do.
I'm going to be 40 in June.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I do.
Bill for president. I vote for you.
I'm just saying, I do. You know, I think that was a 22-year-old hot-headed kid. I don't think you would do the same thing today. I might be wrong, but you can't shoot at somebody running away. I mean,
right. And, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
know it's a hard one. Listen, I know that's not an easy one because it's like, you know, usually say mental illness or felon, right? And I think about it. The only reason I would even think about this is because I'm a felon and I was arrested for a gun charge, that it forces me to go, you know, because now I am a different person, gave my life to God and stuff. And I'm like, what I'm sitting with, the real question is, does the individual, whether it's Greg or anybody else, still have the right to protect his house? And when you get into the brass tacks of that, I believe they do, but at the same time, what if a person is still a hothead? You know, like these are the nuances that
of course.
Is the Constitution absolute? And that's, you bring up, just to circle back at everything we spoke about today, and we're going to wrap this up soon, but you know, you bring up this where you were in the 73rd, and this one area was like a war zone, and you know, you've seen things that people they just want to hate cops, but you've seen things, you were part of something that you can't unsee the rest of your life. But you know, the people over there were like, thank God you're here, because people are literally killing themselves. You know, like you alluded to later, there's obviously government invested money in areas to not blossom like other areas, right?
Great.
And I believe there's an awakening happening to see that. So I hope in all, brother, that we could have a society that matures, so we can all have one constitutionally compliant law enforcement, but also a
Let me explain to
society.
you my rebuttal to that.
Go for it, bro.
My rebuttal to that is the media fans the flame of hatred towards the police.
100%.
Okay, so if something happens, they're going to hate the police. They're not going to hate the guy who made the policy for that, or who created the environment that these people live in. You know what I mean? They're going to hate the cop. You know, somebody goes down and they fight the cops, and the cop, you know, he's all of a sudden on the news.
Public opinion. It's no longer, it's no longer his day.
Right.
But that's because of lack of knowledge of the society. See?
But the people who run the media are run by the same 5 companies, and that's their plan. That's to keep right fighting left, straight fighting gay, black fighting white, all of us fighting against each other, and they're all getting rich.
That's right, brother. The divisive tactics of so cunning, man. When you don't give in. You don't give in. I mean, brother, you know, for a longer conversation at a different time, even the label white and the label black. Are you Italian?
No, I'm actually 13% black.
You're 13% black. Look at you. You're 13%.
I'm half West Indian.
There you go. Right. So now check this out. Italians were only considered white starting after World War II, so they'd have more people. But they made this casting system, right? Check out how cunning this is, right? Yes. So they make this label white, this label black, this casting system, and then by, let's say, an emotional Greg or emotional Bill at one time, and we go, they start talking about white supremacy and go, oh, well, I'm not racist. I never did nothing to you. Now we have entered a coliseum where now we're defending these white black labels, and the man behind the curtain is always protected. You know, they did it with Antifa, they do it with the freedom rally, or freedom movements rather, they do it with the right wing. There's always something in front. Right now it's Palestine, right?
Palestine's the big one, right? It's all the same people.
But then check it out, right? So now you have all these Muslims, and they're like, I'm not bad. Why are they calling me terror? Or are these Palestinians that came to America already, that have been Americanized, and now they're being targeted? You have the Jews being targeted. You see what I'm saying? So now they're all protecting. We have a mutual enemy.
Correct.
And it's the media and the people that own the media.
Absolutely. And who owns the media?
Crazy. It's and you know, it goes back to what you said. It really, if we don't have a society that matures, this continues to go downhill until it can't go downhill anymore.
But it's not going to mature while the same 5 companies are pulling all the strings.
Right.
And not right. The Black Rocks, the Vanguards, they just do what they want. They're pulling the strings, and they're going to stuff things down your throat, and that's it. And you're going to buy it. Right? First it was Ukraine, now it's Israel. Next year, what's it going to be? We don't know, but it's going to be something.
Right. And
don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be something. And there's 7-year-old children getting blown up in Palestine right now. I mean, that's crazy, and everybody's okay with it.
Right.
And I'm not. And then when I say that, people are like, "What are you, liberal?" No, I'm not a liberal. Right. You know, I felt bad for the poor Russian kid who got drafted and his ass sent to Ukraine, getting killed. And I feel bad for the poor Ukrainian kid.
Look at this disclaimer. Look at this disclaimer, Bill, that you're giving right now. And that's part of the programming too, right?
I have to give a disclaimer.
I don't hate
you. If you say something against the Israeli government, you're an anti-Semite. No, I don't like the Israeli government. I love America. I don't love my government.
That's such a hard concept for Americans to understand.
And I was part of the government, and it pains me every day.
Right.
Because I was part of it. I've had this discussion with Laura so many times you can't even imagine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was part of it. I was the heavy hand of the government. I try not to think on a regular that I was, but I'm sure somebody thinks I was.
But you know what? You're speaking up today, bro, and I'm gonna wrap it up here on that note, because I just want to say that it's very brave of you to speak up, because you don't have to, man. You did your time. You did it with a good heart. You served New York City, despite what the media says. I believe you when you tell me that you were around men that just wanted to make their society better. It's unfortunate that society has let you down. That, you know, and I'm feeling just what I've been in this movement for like 3-4 years, and I'm like, I know what you mean, but you did it for 20, right? You did it for 20. And the only thing that you're a God-fearing man.
Yeah.
You know, we love thy neighbor is so important, bro. And whether, you know, nobody recognizes what you did for our city, man. I just want to take the time out to say thank you for what you did for our city and you speaking up today, man. I just want to say thank you for coming on, bro.
Thanks for having me. You're welcome.
I appreciate it, bro. Episode 11 with brother Bill Pro. Can we have you back on one day, man?
Sure.
I appreciate you, bro. I appreciate your time, man. Thank you.
All right. Okay.